Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And first and foremost, Happy New Year. I hope you guys live up to all your resolutions and make sure you use the time wisely. But as for me, I feel like I have unfinished business before I can fully move on to 2024. Godzilla vs. Goku. Enough said. I have 2 videos on the subject, and the second one was pretty much a squash, I'm not gonna lie. Ever since that last video, people have asked me to use a stronger version of Goku. And what version of Goku stronger than Xenogoku? The Goku from Xenoverse and Heroes respectively. This guy has quite the reputation of being an absolute monster, but how does he compare to the king of monsters himself, Heisei Godzilla? Fun fact to all you guys, I actually wanted to do DCEU Superman versus MV Godzilla, but I got a pretty fat copyright strike, so let's just do this instead. Plus, I think this video gives me the opportunity to kind of clean up my Heisei Godzilla scaling. Those old videos are still probably a little accurate, but the editing is pretty choppy, and I feel like I could have just done the whole thing a little better. And all the Dragon Ball fans said that I made Goku lose worse than Death Battle, which is probably not even wrong. So hopefully by using a much stronger Goku, I can give Dragon Ball its first W on the channel in a while. Will Goku go 0-3 like he did on Death Battle? Or will Goku start off the new year right? But first, if you guys like the power scaling content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We post weekly videos and we cover a wide variety of topics. From Godzilla to Five Nights at Freddy's, this is the channel you want to be at. Remember to follow all my socials, and with all that garbage out the way, let's get into the matchup. So starting off with Heisei Godzilla's mid-end interpretations, he has many statements confirming him to be stronger than his Showa counterpart. Showa Godzilla I've scaled on multiple occasions now. The verse has very casual planetary, star, and even solar system level scaling. But the best thing Showa Godzilla scales to from this era is a feat from Zone Fighter, in which Zone destroys a 4th dimensional space. And we have scans from Gaim books confirming this space to be a world or universe depending on how you interpret the kanji. But this would grant Zone Fighter, and by extension Showa, and by extension Heisei Godzilla, universal plus scaling. Now you guys know me. I don't usually take statements comparing other verses that are not connected very seriously, but this instance is different, as Heisei Godzilla using scaling from his films and lore can be scaled much higher than Universal Plus, making the statement saying that he's stronger than Showa Godzilla consistent. So what scaling does Heisei Godzilla have by himself? Heisei Godzilla very casually can be scaled to high Universal. The most blatant example of this is when he defeats Space Godzilla, a creature who absorbed infinite energy across the universe and can utilize it in his combat. Godzilla, after multiple shots with his red spiral ray, was able to kind of obliterate Space Godzilla. To understand how massive this is for Godzilla's scaling, we're gonna have to talk about Space Godzilla and his nature. Space Godzilla can actually absorb Godzilla's atomic breath, and it's how he beat him during their first encounter. By the end of the movie, Godzilla absorbs Space Godzilla's power and uses it to boost his atomic breath. But the fact that Space Godzilla wasn't able to absorb that means that Godzilla had more power than Space Godzilla could handle. The same creature who could absorb infinite energy. This is consistent because Space Godzilla is composed of Biollante cells, which are stated to have infinite evolution, meaning that by the end of their fight, Godzilla and Space Godzilla's power gap was literally an infinite times difference. If we take this all in face value, this would at least be high Universal, as infinite energy on a 3rd dimensional scale is basically high uni. But using inverse context, this feat can be argued to be much higher, as 4th dimensional spaces exist in the Heisei era. This is proven by Zone Fighter. And yes, I know Zone Fighter isn't Heisei era canon, but constructs that exist in Zone Fighter should exist in the Heisei era, as they share the same cosmology. So areas should be consistent across both continuities, as the Showa and Heisei era are just branched off alternate timelines from 54. So 4th dimensional realms exist in both the Heisei and Showa era. This is notable because Space Godzilla transcends the laws of physics and utilizes super gravity, which is super dimensional in nature, meaning that bare minimum, it would upscale the 4D cosmology and get Space Godzilla to around low complex multiversal, as he scales the 5D constructs. He would also be an infinite degree into 5D, as he's referenced to have infinite energy, and then you have Godzilla completely overpower and overwhelm him. So the full context is that Godzilla was able to overwhelm and overload a creature that could absorb infinite energy on a 5th dimensional scale, meaning bare minimum Godzilla would scale to around low complex multiversal and be infinite 5D as well. But you could argue he's even 6th dimensional, as Space Godzilla was infinite 5D and could absorb infinite energy on a 5th dimensional scale, and he just was completely overwhelmed by Godzilla. From there, Godzilla would only become stronger as he ascends into the burning Godzilla state, which is verbatimly just called stronger than he was before. Godzilla in this state is actually dying, right? And when Godzilla dies, he will explode, but they actually talk about how powerful this explosion would be. A lot of people like to downplay this explosion to merely planetary, but the characters in the movie state that such an energy surge would be relative to the Big Bang itself, meaning that Godzilla has energy relative to a Big Bang that created the entire cosmology, which has multiple 4D realms, an infinite sized universe, and 5th dimensional things such as super gravity. But most notably, Godzilla during his final battle against Destroyer would gain the infinite spiral ray, which is stated to be infinite in power and degrees, and it increases by an infinite amount each time it's fired. Seeing as how Godzilla is casually 5 to 6 dimensional in base, and then gains Burning Godzilla and gets these infinite amps on top of himself, this would easily get Godzilla into infinite 6D. And that's where Godzilla's scaling kind of ends, which is still very, very impressive stuff. Like, for example, I know all this 6D, 7D is confusing, but think of something like the God of War Yggdrasil. Heisei Godzilla could destroy that. Yeah, we're dealing with that level of power when talking about Heisei Godzilla. But how about speed? Space Godzilla is referenced to have traveled from the edge of the universe, which is stated to be infinite on multiple occasions. This would grant Space Godzilla infinite speed. Space Godzilla's crystals also beat Space Godzilla to Earth, meaning that they would be infinite speed as well, and Godzilla in the movie physically was able to dodge and react to these projectiles, and his atomic breath was portrayed as faster than them. And no, Space Godzilla's travel speed or his crystal speed would not be nerfed by the atmosphere, because Space Godzilla's a hacksmonger and he controls gravity and manipulates it very easily, so stuff like the atmosphere would not hinder him at all. The fact that Space Godzilla has 5D scaling would also automatically mean he scales to immeasurable speed. This is consistent because guidebooks reference Mothra Leo to be able to fly at the speed of light, and in the Heisei cosmology it's referenced that the speed of light exceeds the speed of time, and in the same very guidebooks it's stated that Space Godzilla also travels at the speed of light, the travel speed which Godzilla scales to. There's also a number of other immeasurable speed Godzilla arguments. They're in these two videos right here, so if you want to learn more about Godzilla's speed ends, check those out. It's 40 minutes of just Heisei Godzilla. But in conclusion, Heisei Godzilla should be anywhere from infinite 5D to infinite 6D. And he has anywhere from infinite to more than likely immeasurable speed as well. But how does Xeno Goku compare to this? In order to talk about Xeno Goku, we're gonna have to talk about what he is. And he's kind of a mini composite Goku, as multiple Dragon Ball properties are canon to him in his scaling. Specifically, OG Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and all of the original movies. So he gets all of that stuff as a baseline. Some stuff he gets is upscaling Buhan's Scream, which is anywhere from Uni Plus to probably even low multiversal. His speed would automatically be infinite to immeasurable, depending on how you interpret the Cooler's realm statements. Particularly the instant transmission feat where Cooler catches Goku lacking in a realm that's either outside or transcends time. But what am I kidding? Xeno Goku wouldn't be regarded as a beast if that's all the scaling he had. So let's talk about the stuff he has by himself. But to get into that, we're gonna have to talk about the cosmology in order to truly understand and fathom the power of this version of the character. The Dragon Ball Heroes cosmology is stated on multiple occasions to be composed of infinite timelines with infinite time. A lot of these statements are verbatim and very blatant, so at bare minimum, the cosmology of Dragon Ball Heroes would be around multiversal plus. And even the jobbers like the Supreme Kai of Time have shown the ability to hold the cosmology for a period of time. Moving up the chain of characters Goku should upscale, we're gonna have to talk about Demigra. Demigra is stated to transcend space and time on multiple occasions, granting him 5th dimensional AP. This is consistent as he was going to destroy the infinite 4D multiverse and was going to reshape it to his image. Demigra in the final battle against Goku during Xenoverse 1 was also destroying the Crack of Time as a mere side effect of their battle. The Crack of Time being an infinite sized construct that views the entire multiverse as finite, meaning the Crack of Time has 5D scaling, and it would be into that layer an infinite times fold due to it being an infinite sized space. And as previously mentioned, Demigra scales to it pretty easily. There's also an instance from Xenoverse 1 where Demigra was going to destroy the entire construct and cosmology with a single attack, and Goku was able to hold back and nullify this attack in base. And in Xenoverse 2, Goku was able to fight on par with Mira. This is insanity because Mira had enough energy to blow up, and characters who could travel across the entire multiverse and even ascend to higher planes of existence such as the Crack of Time said there was nowhere to run. It's a little contentious of Xenoverse Goku from the games is actually Xeno Goku. Some people say he is, some people say he isn't, but Xeno Goku has shown relativity to both of these guys outside of these two games, so it doesn't really matter. Demigra didn't only threaten all these constructs, he also threatened Beat's world. Beat comes from a world that views Dragon Ball cosmology and all of Heroes as fiction, meaning that it would be another dimensional layer on top of the baseline cosmology, getting Demigra to around 6D. Xeno Goku was able to damage Demigra and block its attacks. And even after Demigra transformed into his final form, Xeno Goku was still in base. But why is he in base, you might ask? Well, it's because every time he transforms to Super Saiyan 4, he threatens the fabric of the entire multiverse. And he can only use his Super Saiyan 4 only against especially powerful enemies, such as Fu, a being who was confirmed to be the strongest villain in Dragon Ball Heroes history. Xeno Goku showed relativity to him and he was able to damage him and even press him. And that's personally where I have Xeno Goku at, to be honest, around Infinite 6D. You know, I said he was 6D, Infinite 6D comes from the fact that his energy was gonna encompass and destroy an infinite multiverse. So he would have infinite energy on a 6-dimensional scale. Also, I want to note that since GT and the movies are canon to Xeno Goku, that would mean that he can utilize Kaioken while in Super Saiyan 4 because of what was shown in GT, and he can utilize Kaioken to over 100 times due to the events of Lord Slug, meaning that theoretically Xeno Goku could utilize this infinite 6-dimensional power 100 times over. Still infinite 6D, but still. He's a monster. But yet, there's another even higher level of potential scaling from Dragon Ball Heroes. And basically, it comes from Charisma's world, which views Dragon Ball Heroes in its entirety as fiction. And when I say its entirety, it also views Beats world as fiction as well, meaning that it's another dimensional layer, so 7D. People who scale to it is kind of weird because you have Fu once again, who's able to cross into this higher plane of existence, granting him possible 7D scaling, but it's a little weird. Even without the higher ends of power, Xenogoku is still an absolute monster. So with both of our combatants thoroughly analyzed, who wins? And honestly, it's pretty tricky. Both of these characters fall into the same level of dimensionality and base and get into higher levels and scale to those higher levels via forms that grant some potential infinite times power boosts. I would say this fight is almost inconclusive due to how close the stats are, but I'm gonna have to say that I think Xenogoku wins, and it's not because of sheer attack potency, rather it's due to his hacks. Xenogoku has access to an ability called Dimension Domain, which reduces all of the enemy's attacks to 1. Heisei Godzilla has a lot of hacks resistance, and you'd be surprised, and honestly that could fit in a whole nother video. But Heisei Godzilla has never shown resistance to power nullification, and that's what ultimately it comes down to, unfortunately, for the Godzilla fans. While base to base, and looking at both of these guys at their peaks, there should be around the same level of power, but Xenogoku has a way of nullifying that power. Maybe you could argue something like Godzilla's infinite spiral ray that increases infinitely in power each time it's fired would be the only thing that could possibly bypass Dimension Domain, but even then it's shaky at best. As you could simply argue Goku scales higher using the potential 7D arguments that I proposed. And true, Heisei Godzilla has a lot of 11D scaling, which is really weird. It's like stretching the exact meaning of super gravity. I don't use them. But using scaling that's consistent, Xenogoku could be argued to scale higher. And there's also the fact that Xenogoku has better control of his power than Burning Godzilla. As well, yes, Burning Godzilla does control his attacks and they do amplify them. He's still dying. You could even argue that Xenogoku could just wait him out until he just blows up. And yes, I think Xenogoku should be able to escape Godzilla's explosion due to being able to travel to other dimensions and having ways to do that. So it looks like after all that, Dragon Ball has another W on this channel. So you guys can stop saying that all I do is make Godzilla win and Dragon Ball lose. It's a new year, new me. But anyways, if you made it to the end of this video, I'd like to thank you. This is the first video of the new year, and this is the first of many, hopefully. I have a lot of big plans, and I would appreciate it if you guys stuck along with me. So you guys know me. I'll be back next week, but until then, stay big, G fans.